us half an hour and 10 minutes to us for rejoinder. Half an hour and 10 minutes to us for rejoinder. Half an hour and 10 minutes.
Mr. Sipal can't fix the time limit. Mr. Sipal can't fix the time limit.
No, he only.
I'm saying 10 minutes only.
It's our time limit.
Yes, yes, Varun, we are saying, Your Lordship.
It's our time limit.
Yes, yes, Varun, we are saying, Your Lordship.
Okay.
It's our time
And I
limit.
hope
Let him know.
one thing was very disturbing.
And I
The
hope,
violence which is
one
taking
thing was
place.
very
Yes.
Disturbing. The violence which is taking
I
place.
agree.
Once
Yes.
the matter is before court,
Yes, nothing should
once
happen.
the matter is
It's a
before
concern.
court,
Yes,
It's
nothing should
disturbing
happen.
this right.
That's-
It's a
This
concern.
encourages.
That's why it's important that your lordship to put a quiet. That's why it's important that your lordship to put a quiet.
Pressurize phenomena.
Absolutely.
By violating, pressurize
I
the
don't know who's
system.
pressurizing.
By violating,
I wonder who's pressurizing who.
Unacceptable.
You must stop pressurizing.
Unacceptable.
Let's also put it.
Must stop.
Both of us, let's also put it. Both of us, we just discussed this. Please highlight those.
No, we would have.
Yes, yes,
I have yet. No, we would have. I'm
Yes, yes,
highlight. I have yet. I only respond to highlight.
Half an hour tomorrow.
I only respond to
We went back to
Half an hour
highlight.
tomorrow.
the positive.
We went back to highlight.
Obliged, obliged,
If you
obliged, obliged.
within itself, Murad, my essential religious practice and my essential religious practice and proportionate. So that must be reasonable and proportionate. So that's under which we'll have to examine the provisions of under which we'll have to examine the provisions of this act. Kindly come to straight away, kindly come to section R. 3R of the Bare Act of the Unified Waqf Management Empowerment of the Unified Waqf Management Empowerment. Can we just hand them over to you? We have printed Bare Acts, can we just hand them over to your lordship? We'll just have the Bare Acts first. We'll just have the
For JPC.
That's right. Just for
And Parliament on JPC.
That's right. Just for
And Parliament also. How kindly see, my lord, on page 40, my lord, which is how kindly see, my lord, on page 40, my lord, which is now deleted.
I have it, but I may see it with the amendment, Your Lordship. But I may see it with the amendment, Your Lordship.
Yes, Mr. Sipal.
Let us kindly look at
Yes, Mr.
3R.
Sipal.
Let us kindly look at 3R. Definition of Waqf. Waqf means, your lordship has that? Waqf
Yes.
means, your lordship has means the permanent
Yes.
dedication. Waqf means the permanent dedication. Showing or demonstrating any permanent dedication. Showing or demonstrating any permanent showing or demonstrating or permanent dedication. Showing or demonstrating dedication. Showing or demonstrating dedication. Showing or demonstrating dedication. Showing or set up a Waqf for creator. So, therefore, if I want to set up a Waqf for creator, that I have been practicing Islam to show for 5 years. That I have been practicing Islam to the state for 5 years. To the state. It's my property. Why would I have to do that? Why would I? It's my property. Why would I have to do that? Why would I have to do that? If I'm born a Muslim, why would I have to do that? Be a judge of whether how good a Muslim I am. Why should the state be a judge of whether how good a Muslim law will apply to me? My personal law will apply to me. Per se, according to me, so, per se, according to me, what is that contrivance? And then, what is that contrivance involved in the?
Given that we have a time constraint.
Check sound check.
All right.
Check sound check. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All right.
Check 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Admission stage hearing. Down the time because it's admission stage. I request everybody not to repeat whatever has. I request everybody not to repeat.
Correct, but now I'll tell you, Lordship, what sections I'm challenging. Correct, but now I'll tell you, Lordship, what sections I'm challenging. I'm challenging my essential religious practice and within essential religious practice. My essential religious practice and my essential religious practice and proportionate. So that must be reasonable and proportionate. So that's under which we'll have to examine the provisions of under which we'll have to examine the provisions of this act. Kindly come to straight away, kindly come to section R. 3R of the Bare Act of the Unified Waqf Management Bare Act of the Unified Waqf Management Empowerment. Can we just hand them over to you? We have printed Bare Acts. Can we just hand them over to your lordship? We'll just have the Bare Act first. We'll just have the Bare Act first. That's right. Just for convenience. But allow me to give the Bare Act. Just for convenience. But allow me to give the Bare Act.
This is the act with the amendment.
Yes.
Sir, I have it, I have it, with the amendment. With the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Sibbal.
Let us kindly look at three. Let us kindly look at definition of Waqf. Definition of Waqf. Waqf means, your lordship has that? Waqf means, your lordship has that? Waqf means the permanent dedication. The permanent dedication by any person, by any showing or demonstrating. Does your lordship don't have the Bare Act?
Yes,
Does your lordship don't have the Bare Act? So
Yes,
3R.
we've got the
Waqf
Bare Act.
means the permanent dedication by any permanent dedication showing or demonstrating, practicing Islam for the last 5 years. Islam for the last 5 years. Of any movable or immovable property having ownership of such property, and that there is no contrivance, involved in the dedication of such property, for any purpose recognized by the Muslim law by the Muslim religious as pious, religious, and includes such and such and such and includes such and such. So, therefore, if I want to set up a Waqf, I'll have to show that I'll have to show Islam, that I have been practicing Islam for 5 years to the state. Why would I? It's my property. Why would I have to do that? It's my property. Why would I have to do that? A Muslim, why would I have to do that? A Muslim, why would I have to do that? Why should the state be a judge of whether how? Why should the state be a judge of whether how good a Muslim I am? My personal law will apply to me. My personal law will apply to me. So, per se, according to me. So, per se, according to me. And then, what is that contrivance involved in that contrivance involved in the?
Given that we have a time constraint.
Mic check, sound check. Mic check, sound
All right.
check.
Some of the-
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Also cut down the time because this is the admission stage hearing. I request everybody not to repeat. Whatever has.
Correct, but now I'll tell your lordship what sections I'm challenging. I'm challenging this 3R. Then I'm challenging this proviso to 3, provided that the existing Waqf by user properties registered on or before the commencement of the Waqf Amendment Act will remain as Waqf properties, except that the property wholly or in part is a government dispute or is a government property.
Which proviso?
This is the proviso. Waqf means this is the proviso. Waqf means after Waqf means.
Page 6 of the compilation.
Whether they have, as your lordship knows, whether they have as your user, deleted Waqf by
For
the past, they are maintained. For the past, they are for the future, they have for the future, they have that who are you? That's another challenge to say that I cannot create a Waqf myself. To say that I cannot create a Waqf my practice. That is my essential faith and practice. Second challenge. So, that's the second challenge. And this, every encroacher, who will decide that? It will be decided who will decide that mechanism. The dispute mechanism. Now kindly come to 3 section. First 3A. First 3A, 3 capital A, subsection 3 capital A, subsection 2. And tell your lordships what the challenge is. And tell your lordships what the challenge is. Creation of a Waqf. Shall result in denial of inheritance, rights of heirs, rights of heirs, including women or any other rights of persons with lawful claims. Who is the state to decide that? Under what lawful claim are you talking about? Under what lawful claim are you talking about? Who is the state to tell us as to how inheritance is going to happen? In my religion.
Even under the Hindu Succession Act, the State has an action act. The state has a law.
In Islam, that's not the case. In Islam, that's not the case. That's interference with 26. That's interference with 26.
Just a question. Parliament cannot enact any law. Parliament cannot enact any law. Parliament has enacted law with regard not be invested to the same extent as case of to the same extent as enacted laws. It has enacted laws.
No, I'm not on that. Because of 26, I'm sorry, because of 26, I'm sorry, I'm on a narrow issue of 20, narrow issue of 20.
Not Parliament as a legislature, Parliament as a case.
Subject to public, subject to morality, public health, and subject to morality, public health, and nothing to do with that. This is nothing to do with that.
Never, but when universe 26 is universe in the sense, because secular in the sense, because
Yes, that's correct.
all
Yes, that's correct.
Hindu Succession Act, you guardianship amendment as act, you guardianship amendment as act. So many acts have been.
All right, I'll just move on, but I just tell you why the challenge. But I just tell you why the challenge. Why the challenge applies after. Inheritance in Islam applies after. They are interfering before that. They are interfering before that. That's the point. But that's the point only, Mullah. But that's the point only. Flagging the point, Mullah, so that I'm just flagging the point. That's point number 2 time. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, Mullah. Point number 3, Mullah. Kindly see. 3C. In Millard's page 9 of the book that I've given to you. Page 9 of the book that I've given to your lordship. Any government property identified or declared as before or after the commencement of this act shall not be deemed to be a Waqf property. Any property, government property identified or declared. So, if they identify or declare it shall not be Waqf property. Then, that's 2. Then, I think the whole section is ultra-vires. I think the whole section is ultra-vires. If any question arises, whether any such 3C, 3 capital C, 3 capital C, 1. Let's first 3C1. It's much better to look at that. It's much better to look at that. Page 9 of this book, Mullah. Page 9 of this book, Mullah. VC1, may I read, Mullah? VC1, may I read? It says any government property identified or declared as Waqf property or declared as Waqf after the commencement of this act shall not be deemed to be Waqf property. So they can make a declaration says this is not Waqf property. If any question arises, if any question arises, such property is a government property, whether any such property is a government property, may by notification, the state government may by notification an officer above the rank of collector, referred to as the designated officer, who shall conduct an inquiry as per whether such property is a government property or not, and submit his report to the state government. And submit his report to the state government. Provided that such property shall not be treated as Waqf property, not be treated as Waqf property. Designated officer submits his report. And there's no time limit there. Quite apart from that, what is that process? Quite apart from that, what is that process? Where the government officer will decide in a dispute between the government and the government property. That this is government property. You therefore have identified an officer who is part of the government. Who will be a judge in his own cause. Who will be a judge in his own cause. He is an officer of the government. And he gives a declaration. Identifies and gives a declaration. This is again per se unconstitutional. Provided that such property shall not be treated as Waqf property, till the designated officer submits the report.
So the property is on lease. Where is the right? I'm sorry, I didn't want your lordships to hear this.
So, that's the third challenge. That's the third challenge. Challenge 4, perhaps even more serious. Declaration of protected monument or protected area as Waqf to be void. Any declaration or notification under this act, or under any previous act, in respect of Waqf properties, if such property was a protected monument or protected area under the Ancient Monuments Preservation Act, or the Ancient Monuments or Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958, at the time of such declaration or notification. So all these properties,
One reads it carefully. But last part says, at the time of declaration or at the time of declaration or at the time when it was declared or notified as a Waqf, declared or notified as a Waqf, then that declaration, then that declaration, if at the time of such
Yes.
declaration,
There was a, it was a protected monument. There was a, it was a protected monument.
it was how many of such,
Correct.
how many of such cases will be there? Because
Any day, Jama Masjid.
মিষ্টি স্বাদ আসলে কেমন জানেন? জন্মদিনে মায়ের হাতের পায়েস,
That's correct.
শীতের
So
পিঠে
this is
পুলি।
a protected monument also then.
আর খুশির মুহূর্তে
asking this question.
ক্যাডবেরি ডেয়ারি মিল্ক,
On my
এই স্বাদ শুধু
request of
মুখেই না,
interpretation in your favor.
লেগে থাকে মনে।
I'm quiet then.
ছেলে বাড়ি এলে
Then I'm quiet.
প্রতিটা মুহূর্তে মিষ্টি হয়ে ওঠে। ছুটিতেও আসছে, বাবা ছেলের মিষ্টি মুহূর্তগুলো
Yes,
আরো
yes,
মিষ্টি করে
I
তুলবে
What I was saying,
ক্যাডবেরি সন্দেশ।
if somebody
ওর ফেভারিট ক্যাডবেরি মিষ্টি সেরা সৃষ্টি। এই সিজনে আপনার প্রিয়জনের মুহূর্তগুলোকে আরো মিষ্টি করে তুলুন
Asian monument
ক্যাডবেরি মিষ্টির সঙ্গে। চেখে দেখুন দারুণ সব ক্রিয়েশন,
2004 Act or
মুহূর্ত ওরা হোক আরো মিষ্টি।
monument under the 1958 Act, it will not make any difference.
That's right. That's our
It's a
submission.
continue to remain one. Therefore,
That's
you
right.
really should not be
That's our
objecting
submission.
to it. That's said to the extent. Therefore, you really should not be objecting to it. It has except to the extent Asian monument. That's something covered by the archaeological survey. Then it cannot now be covered by the archaeological
It
survey.
can't be declared to be
Then
void.
it cannot
That's all.
now be created into a Waqf. Even if it has
It now can't be declared to be void.
to
That's all.
be a Waqf, even if it has been declared, it was notified a Waqf to be a monument or archaeological monument was notified by the archaeological monument or archaeological, but most of the monuments like archaeological or for that matter, that will be void. But most of the monuments like the ancient Masjid will be all protected. They will not be hit by this problem. The ancient Masjid will be all protected. They
Let's
will not
kindly
be hit by
appreciate
this
that.
problem.
When you go to a mosque, for example, which is part of a protected text symbol, when you go to a mosque, for example, what happens is part of a protected text symbol, the Mutawalli monument. What happens is the Mutawalli, the Mutawalli, now this is three DE Malats, that's my, therefore this is now 3E. Now this is the fifth challenge, 3 DE Malats, that's my challenge there. 3E is the fifth challenge. Bar of declaration of any land in scheduled or tribal area as Waqf. Bar of notwithstanding any land contained in this scheduled or tribal area or any other law for the time being notwithstanding anything contained in this act belonging to members of the law for the time being enforced no land, the fifth schedule belonging to members of scheduled to the Constitution under the provisions of the fifth schedule or the sixth schedule to the Constitution shall be declared or deemed to be Waqf property. All these, I have a chart here. Muslims are deemed to be all these Muslims are deemed to be
a lot of laws
scheduled
across
tribes.
India. It says scheduled tribes cannot transfer property across India. It says scheduled tribes cannot transfer property.
That's all right. But see what the extent of no land belonging to the scheduled tribes, but see what the declared or deemed to be a Waqf no land belonging to the scheduled tribes shall be declared or deemed to be a Waqf property.
Scheduled tribes have always, as far as land laws are concerned, some of the legislation.
Bishop is right. I'm not, that's,
In fact,
that's
some of
right.
the legislation.
Bishop is right. Non-tribal. That's right. That's non-tribal.
Laws like in Maharashtra.
Wait for your turn.
Laws like in
Mr. Sidhu
Maharashtra.
can answer. Wait for your turn.
Correct. So therefore you can transfer it to a scheduled tribe. Not only that, correct. So therefore you can transfer it to a declared or deemed to be a Waqf. Not only that, shall be declared or deemed to be a Waqf property. Now, kindly come to fifth, the Central Waqf Council. Your Lordship may just note that under the 1995 Act,
Actual experience, maybe non-Muslims.
note that under the
Joint Secretary to Government of India, actual
one
experience,
member of the
maybe
Bar
non-Muslims.
Council,
Provided that
Joint
two members
Secretary
of
to
the Board
Government of
appointed
India,
under C
one
shall be
member of the
women.
Bar Council,
Provided that two members of the Board appointed under C shall be women.
excluding
Provided
ex-official
further that two of the total members of the Board appointed under this section, excluding ex-official shall be nominations.
It's a complete takeover. Nominals, if your Lordship sees the 1995 Act,
And I just
nominals, if your Lordship sees the 1995 Act,
and I just presently give that
at
to
all
your
Muslims,
And a
the 1995
Section 16 is disqualified.
at all Muslims.
And a disqualification, section
That
16
was,
is
mothers,
disqualified.
kindly see the council provision. I just point out the provision, mothers.
That was,
Council
mothers,
provision
kindly
was
see the
section 9
council provision.
of the 1995 Act, all Muslims. Council provision was section 9 of the 1995 Act, all Muslims, your Lordship may just take it, it's all the 1995 Act, which is the board provision is section 40 of the 1995 Act, which is also all Muslim.
Next point.
And from amongst Muslims, then there's a disqualification provision also. And from amongst Muslims, then there's a disqualification provision also. Now, the next section, that's correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Now, the next section is chief executive. No, leave that. All officers have to be Muslims earlier, including the chief executive officer. All officers have to be Muslims earlier. Now it's including the chief executive officer. Now kindly come to registration. Now it's not a Muslim. Now kindly come to registration. On and from the commencement of the Waqf Amendment Act, Section 36. On and from the commencement of the Waqf Amendment Act, Section 36. Mullahs.
Yes.
1A, Mullahs. 36, 1 capital A, on and from the commencement of the Waqf Amendment Act, 36, no work shall be created without execution of the commencement of the Waqf Amendment Act, no work shall be created without execution of a Waqf deed. I'm not saying anything wrong, I'm just indicating, Mullahs. Waqf, kindly see, I'm not saying anything wrong, I'm just indicating Waqf by user. Waqf, kindly see, Mullahs. You don't have to have a deed. You can create a Waqf if it is my property, Mullahs, as your Lordship knows. You don't have to have a deed. Property, Mullahs. If it is my property, Mullahs, as your Lordship knows. In the sense I can allow somebody to say have a shelter home. I can create a Waqf. I don't have to register. In the sense I can allow somebody it's my property, to have a shelter home there. Forget about I don't have to register faith or not. Supposing my own property, but I want something. I have to forget about whether I have the Muslim faith or not. Supposing my own property, I want somebody. I have to register.
Also, because it will that. You can register the work also because it will help you also have to maintain a register of work.
So that's another matter. But Waqf by user is abolished.
That's not the beneficial. After question of work by user, you have an issue.
But I'm just saying, Waqf by user is now abolished. It's an essential part of Muslim law and Muslim faith. And it's recognized by your Lordships in paragraph 1134 of the Ram Janambhoomi judgment.
More is merry,
The Lordship just
which
note
is
that.
why we add more
Para
chunks of real
1134.
fruit for deeper flavor. Nick,
states precisely
flavors
that.
as deep as friendship.
Wrong if you permit somebody to qualify. We want that is
Then you can. That's right.
all that the section says is to avoid uncertainty concept. So that there is no, all that the section says is to avoid uncertainty. That you have a deed and portalize it.
That's really not so much on that. Lordship is right. That's just saying. That's really not so much on that. Lordship is right. That's just saying. Let's move on, Mullahs. Kindly come to 7. Let's move on, Mullahs. Kindly come to 7.
Registration becomes a means really
There's a big problem here. I tell your Lordship, they'll ask us now, and I'll show those provisions to your Lordship. They ask your Lordship, they'll ask us now, and I'll show those provisions to your Lordship. They ask us if give us information as to how it was created. Give us information as to how it was created. So, Mullahs, they want all that information. Many of these properties were created hundreds of years ago. They want all that information. Many of these properties were created hundreds of years ago. How will anybody ever prove it? We'll argue in the main case. And then, Mullahs, what happened when the British came over here? Background, what they did was all these properties which were Waqf properties. What they did in the revenue record, they said all these properties which were Waqf properties. On the basis of those revenue record, they said governors. They say if it's DDA, on the basis of those revenue records, Mullahs, they say if it's DDA, the collector will decide. So these are very serious. And then, Mullahs, the collector will have to be decided by a Lordship. But these are very serious. This is a matter because this will be decided by a Lordship. This is a matter because this will arise by your Lordship to take it over and hear and finally decide the matter. But let's kindly see 7A. Which is why your Lordship should take it over and hear and finally decide the matter. But let's kindly see 7A. Capital 36 7A.
Yes.
Where the collector in its report mentions that the property wholly or in part, where the collector in its report mentions that the property wholly or in part is a government property, is in dispute, or is a government property. Is a government property in relation to such property, such of the property shall not be registered. The Waqf in relation to such property decided by such of the property shall not be registered, which could take 20 years. Is decided by a competent court, which could take 20 years.
This was of now maintained.
They are not saying that, Mullahs.
Not
under 3C, Mullahs. Your Lordship, I read that. They are not saying that, Mullahs.
There's a constitution of
not under 3C, Mullahs. Your Lordship, I read that.
There's a contradiction emerging. There's a contradiction emerging.
That's right.
How will they
any entity, any person, if he claims ownership to property, has any entity, any person, if he claims ownership to property, has to go through it.
Anything which is.
So how do you decide whether it's government property or not? Not yes. So how do you decide whether it's government property or not? Not that's the point.
That has to collect that by competent.
That can't be, but it does in his own cost.
Is that of the collector.
And that's not a judicial process.
It does in his own cost.
That's not a judicial process anyway. That's not a judicial process. Is not a judicial. Well, that's not a judicial process anyway. Collector's process is not a judicial.
No.
Collectors is not
No, not that the section says so. No.
Specifically says.
And not that the section says so.
Kindly see, or is in specifically say.
And or means sure that this is their property.
Or is in
nobody can deal with it.
Which means they are not
sure that this is their property. So it's no longer
can deal with it.
Till such time as it is decided. So it's no longer be a Waqf.
Next point, Mr.
So that's 7A, Malad. Now kindly.
Subsection 10.
Subsection.
10 is the subsection 10, etc.
Subsection. Yeah, no,
10
that
is
no
the-
civil court will have jurisdiction. That's
No
right.
suit, etc.
Then the
one
tribunal.
is
Yeah,
that?
that no civil court will have jurisdiction. That's right.
10 of 36.
10. No suit. Steps of this section, Malad. No suit, appeal, or legal proceeding for the enforcement of any right on behalf of any Waqf which have not been registered in accordance with the provision shall be instituted or commenced or heard.
Limitation period.
Right.
But that's the other very serious issue. Previously, under the 1995 Act, there's no limitation. I'll tell you, Lordship, why.
Limitation can be always imposed by the government.
No, I'm on.
Like before 1995, we had the limitation.
Under the 95 Act, there was no limitation. I'll tell you the reason why. Because many of these Waqf properties were encroached upon. And therefore, Malad, in the context
No, we can't really say that if you impose a period of limitation, it will be wrong, it will be unconstitutional.
No, because
Limitation Act has its advantage.
I'm not on that, Malad. I think the point I'm making is somewhat different. And the point is, Malad, that at that time, if within 2 years we did not file a suit, I can't file a suit now. Therefore, Malad, if the Waqf is created, say, in the 1930s.
There was no limitation period, that means you can always file a suit.
But now it says it has to, after
Yes.
2 years.
If your work property is not registered, then you have to file a suit within 6 months and 6 months plus.
No, but these properties are not registered. These are Waqfs by users, many of them. So how will I file a suit?
So we'll ask them about.
So
work
therefore,
property.
that's the other
We have
issue.
understood, we have understood.
That's the other issue, Malad. Yes, and they will claim adverse possession and encroachers will be legitimized. Encroachers will be legitimized in this process. And Malad, kindly see now 1A. That's another important page number 51, Malad.
1A or what?
1A of section 61, penalties. Sorry, it's fine. May I read that, Malad?
Yes.
It says, if a mutawalli fails to deliver possession of any Waqf property if ordered by the board or tribunal, carry out the directions of the collector of the board, do any other act which he is lawfully required to do by or under this act, provide a statement of accounts under 46, upload the details of Waqf, he shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 6 months and also with a fine which shall not be less than 20,000.
That's in case of violation. There are so many acts.
No, just
Anyway.
go to jail, Malad. 3B, Malad, kindly see.
Since 90s, it was.
3.3.
That's all, Mr. Sip.
No, Malad, just one other thing. Then kindly see 85.
85.
Yes.
Yes.
No suit or other legal proceeding shall lie in any civil court, revenue court, or any other authority in respect of any dispute, question, or other matter relating to any Waqf property or other matter which is required by or under this act to be determined by a tribunal.
This
So that
is a new one or
No, it was there. It was there earlier also. But there was a tribunal. The difference is that the nature of the act has been changed. Originally, everything had to be decided by the tribunal. Here they have introduced 3C, which the tribunal.
That's a.
Why not Chief Justice? I have not forfeited my.
No, you have not forfeited, you're right.
Just to respond to one question that fell from your mentions. The basis of our constitutional attack is that a Waqf is essential and integral to Islam. That was the basis of our attack. And religion and particularly charity is an essential and integral part of Islam. The original test essential was in 54. This other aspects, my lord, Mr. Sibal, I adopt that argument, both about the change in the nature of waqf, the change in the composition and loss of control. Earlier, even the chief executive officer had to be Muslim, no longer. And lastly, my lord, many of these provisions are arbitrary and contrary to Article 40. That is the summation of our argument. I'm very grateful.
I just want to say this. Points have been covered, the same points. Waqf by user deletion is very serious because the statistic is that 4 out of 8 lakhs, 4 lakh out of 8 lakhs perhaps are waqf by user. So by one stroke of pen,
I didn't want to interrupt you with this. There's an issue. You see, when we were in Delhi High Court, we were told Delhi High Court itself is built on a waqf land.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
We were also told that Oberoi Hotel is built on a waqf land.
There are villages which are declared.
The Mehta, please. We are also told Parliament is waqf land. That doesn't mean.
I'm sorry.
Manoj.
We are told Parliament is also waqf land. These are imageries created.
Just one minute. Don't misunderstand us that we are not saying that all waqf by users are wrongly registered, but at the same time, there's an issue and concern.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. But what you are talking about is not individual abuse. You're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You are considering a per se legal abolition of the concept. Now, there's 2 issues arise here. Issue number 1. Waqf by user, is it a novel concept created? Is it something new? Your lordships in para 1118, I think it was 1134, it was para 1118 of Ayodhya's judgment, have traced that this is a very old lineage concept. Very old. Number 2 question arises legally. Have you removed the basis of the judgment? Also from Prithvi Cotton Mills through Madan Mohan Pathak, you have to do something to remove the basis. This act says that it deletes. No, boss, 2RI is deleted. Just see the old 2RI. 2RI today, your lordship, in the book is a blank. In the footnote is given the original 2RI. Now that you delete. By deletion, can you remove the basis of a judgment? The judgment was not based on a waqf by user. It's based on was ancient material. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, the practicality. 4 out of 8 lakh waqfs are supposed to be waqfs by individually. If I go and claim Parliament to be a waqf, your lordship will not accept it. That I can understand. But you don't say the concept is bad. That's point 1. Point 2 is that there are 2 bodies. One is the collector, and one is this fellow called the designated officer. These 2 are the worst examples of judges in their own cause because of a series of provisions. Lordship will note that in this book, my learned friend has pointed out many of them. If you read them together, they are completely judges in their own cause. Starting with 3 IIIDA. Just note that one. The collector is defined very, very broadly. Just see that definition. 3 IIIDA. Collector is not a mere collector as the lordship thinks, everybody, land revenue collector, deputy commissioner, or not any officer below the rank of deputy collector. Then please add to it these other provisions which say designated officers for other things. Till they decide, this shall not be treated as waqf property. Thirdly, they will decide.
Mr. Sipal is already flagged.
Yes. Then, the third thing is, the third issue is, therefore there is a subordination. Those provisions, my learned friend may have given you the chart. Those provisions are very important. They are, just give me half a second. Sections of the Karnataka Hindu Religious Institutions Act, Dharmika Parishad Act, Religious.
Please welcome the Managing Director of Forest Essentials, Samrat Bedi.
We got called in for a meeting at the Hyatt Hotel in Delhi. General manager called us and he said, I need tens of thousands of soaps. My mother, without blinking an eyelid, said, of course we can. Only 10,000? Don't you need more? And I was just like, wow, are you crazy? Women, in some cases smarter, work harder, more loyal. It's amazing to see the kind of dedication that comes even from where we started our first workshop in the Himalayas. We made it so that women could work.
Somebody. Thereafter, there is an additional cumulative condition of contrivance. Now, this is a delightfully vague word. It will mean I will continue going to the office and I'll be under your control for life.
It already argued. So take away something.
Can I answer the first question? Can I answer the first question? There are 3 reasons why this should not even be considered remotely for going to the High Court. Just 3 reasons very quickly. 1, It has all India ramifications. Your lordships would never say, that there should be High Court judgments of multiplicity and diversity.
Accept that argument, then a lot of matters where legislations are challenged.
No matter will come, kindly see. Would my lords countenance multiplicity of High Court judgments? Diverse High Court judgments?
We can direct one High Court. We can direct one.
The same thing will happen, your lordship will today, number one, this is the most.
We have the benefit then of the High Court judgment.
So let me give you all the three reasons. Number one, your lordships, there is no absolute bar in 32. There is a discretionary bar. Three conditions. Three conditions. The first condition is Article 32. What is more, part 3 than Article 26, read with Article 25 directly. Secondly, your lordship will have all over the country, or even your lordship consolidates. What will be the point of spending this time, and ultimately it has to reach the Supreme Court. So therefore, today, this is not that kind of a case where your lordship sends us to the High Court.
Okay.
And there is also an issue that your lordships should lay down the law definitely on this one. I end by one thing. No, I'm saying only one thing.
Okay, now two more.
No, 1 minute. 1 minute.
A quick constitutional point.
One minute more only.
2 sentences only.
I am saying this, if it also meant the same, I'm sure. Some of these pernicious provisions, they have come into effect immediately. We are seeking a stay for the reason your lordship has said in 3 judgments, Health for Millions, then Cheshri and Rakesh Vaishnav. The only argument is a new act. Your lordship doesn't stay the act. There's not a question of staying the act.
We'll come to that part a little later.
No, only one sentence, when there is a status quo continuing from 1923.
Dr. Singhvi, why are you arguing that?
The first act came in 1913.
No, I have a slightly different take on things. So I'm in 13.2, the Association for Protection of Civil Rights. Just give me a moment. No, I just want to point out one thing.